What is up? Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're doing another tier list. This time we're hitting the quads today. So guys, you guys know how it goes. If you don't, if you're new to the channel, here's how my ranking system goes. Number one, my go-to movements. I go to the gym. This is what I have set forth for my plan today. And if I get to the gym and they don't have my go-to, I'm gonna go to my option 2. If they don't have my option 2, I'm going to option 3. And then it's down to, this is all they got. And then last but not least, it'll be like meh, and meh might be taking a rest day. Now remember, when I say meh, meh means all the exercises above are all movements that are that much better to do than meh. How do we rank these exercises? Number one, it needs to have a great full range of movement. The entire thing, not just the partial, not just the top end, I'm talking the entire movement. You're getting the most amount of muscle recruitment and muscle stimulus with the entire range of motion. 2, we can progressive overload the movement. That means that once you're done exhausting reps and sets and intensifiers, all that good stuff, and we can add some more weight, progressive overload. And number 3, it's gotta be easy to do. And what do I mean by easy to do? It means that when you do your basic fundamentals of technique. I'm talking like once you've learned how to do the exercise, like everyone has to go through learning how to do the exercise. Once you've learned how to do the basic technique, it's fairly simple to do. You don't have to jump in any hoops on doing whatever it is. It's just basic technique. You can do it and that's it. So let's get started. All right, first up on the list, we have back squats. Now, back squats are not gonna be my go-to movement. They're a great movement. They're gonna be unbelievably incredible for your legs, for quad development, for sure. The only issue with back squats is it's not a staple. It's not like one of those exercises where you have to load your spine. When it comes down to it, it's a great movement. We can definitely progressive overload it, but when it comes to just the whole safety of it and loading the spine, we can get a better way of loading our spine. Plus, a lot of times when we do load our spine, it throws a lot of us out of whack in terms of leaning too much, arching our back. But once you get your basic fundamentals of technique there, it's still a very good movement. So that's going to go to an option 2 for me. Now, barbell lunges. Barbell lunges are awesome. They're good for your quads, 100%. We get a full range of motion. We're not gonna definitely get the massive stretch to the bottom because again, the floor is gonna stop us. But when it comes to barbells, barbell lunges aren't as good or as optimal as doing like something like a dumbbell lunge. Number one, when it comes to progressive overload, how are you gonna do them? Are you gonna pick the bar up every single time and then try and clean it, then put over your back? How many times have you done it before? You gotta take the bar, you gotta do this, you gotta put on your back, and then you start lunging. So for me, when it comes down to it, it's still a good movement, but when it comes to progressive overload, it makes it very difficult because the more the weight is, the bigger the bar, the bigger the plates, the harder it's gonna be to actually progressive overload instead of using something like dumbbells. So when it comes to barbell lunges, it's gonna be like one of those, like, that's all they got. Mind you guys, it's gonna be a very close one here because when it comes to quads, there's a lot of exercises that hit quads. It's just how optimal are those exercises and how necessary. That should be one of my things. How necessary is it for you to have to do this exercise for you to build quads? So when it comes down to it, is it completely necessary for you to use a barbell on any of these movements to build your quads in each of these movements, being it squat or walking lunges? No. Only thing is, squats are great. And for the most part, when we're down to it, you only really have a bar sometimes at home, so we have to work with what we got. But if it comes to, you know, a barbell walking lunges, it is gonna be one of those, is that all you kind of got things? So it's gonna be a, is that all you got? Belt squat. Belt squats are like one of my go-to movements. Belt squats are absolutely amazing. Why? Because doing a little bit of adjustments inside a belt squat, you can get an extremely unbelievable range of motion. Regardless of the belt squat or not, that machine, most machines have a good adjustability for you to get maximum amount of stretch with the knee flexion, meaning like you're getting your butt all into the ground. You're getting full range of motion from all of the top, all of the bottom. Plus, we don't have to load our spine. So we're able to do all things that the squats do without having to put anything on our back. Plus, it's safe to do. You're getting, like I said, full range of motion, progressive overload, absolutely amazing. It's gonna be a definite go-to for me. All right, deadlifts. Now, deadlifts are a leg exercise. Contrary to belief, they're not a back exercise. Just because your back is being used to hold stability in your torso doesn't mean deadlifts are back exercise. That would mean that if that was true, then that would mean squats are a back exercise. Regardless, we're talking about quads today. And when it comes to deadlifts, deadlifts are gonna do pretty good for your quads, but not as much. Why? Because we're doing a lot more hinging than anything else. Meaning our butt's traveling back, and proper deadlift technique, your shin bone isn't moving that much. So for anything, you're getting a lot more glutes and hamstrings out of it than you are quads. So deadlifts are going to the bottom. Meh. I'm never gonna do deadlifts for quads, ever, ever. Goblet squats. Goblet squats are one of my favorite movements. Are they go-to? No, but they're an awesome movement for those who are beginners. Those who are beginners who are trying to build up good core strength in their torso while building up leg strength to help with stability and mobility. You know, it puts your body in a great upper position so we can get great knee flexion, a great exercise for quads. Again, the limiting factor is going to be your ability to hold the weight and your torso. But if you move up progressive overload slowly with it, your limiting factor won't be that as much, but it will still be a limiting factor when it comes to progressive overload, because you will get to a threshold where it will be too heavy for you to hold in your hands. Your quads, your legs are a lot stronger than your torso in terms of holding weight like this or loading your quads alone. So that's why this is gonna go into the option 3 for me. It's an option 3, definitely. Bulgarian split squats. Bulgarian split squats are one of those love-hate exercises. Why? Because they're extremely effective on your quads. Extremely. Now, depending on how you hold it, in this picture, she's holding it like a goblet squat, but let's just take the movement entirely as is, just from setup. Amazing exercise to do. You're getting a great amount of range of motion, especially knee over toe. You're able to progressive overload it for sure, regardless if you're using, say, a Smith machine or dumbbells, you can load the exercise very well. That for me is going to be one of the go-tos. Smith machine hack squat or Smith machine squats. Great exercise, 100%. It's one of those movements that you can do to easily replace something like a bar squat, like a barbell squat. I think it's like a meathead thing where the Smith machine gets like flack. I don't know why. The Smith machine is a absolutely amazing tool for you to be able to go that much harder with more intensity and effort than having a barbell on your back. So when it comes down to it, if you're set up in it properly, basic technique, the Smith machine hack squats can be highly effective where you're getting a ton of knee flexion. You're gonna be able to progressive overload it. It's not gonna be a go-to for me, but it's definitely gonna be at the top of the list for sure as an option 2. If I go to the gym and they don't have a belt squat and they have a Smith machine and they don't have a hack squat, I'm gonna do the Smith machine over a barbell squat. Front squats. Front squats are, to me, is a movement that I wish I can do more of when it comes to the actual proper front loading position, which is the picture you're seeing right now. If my mobility if my shoulder mobility and wrist mobility is where it should be, I would love to do front squats. And that's why they're not gonna be a go-to for me. Because for a majority of people who can't really necessarily do that, they're mostly doing it like this way, or they're using straps, and that's totally fine, but there might be a limiting factor there as well too when it comes to front loading any weight on your body. Now, the exercise as a whole is just as good as a goblet squat. The only thing is with the goblet squat, you can't load as much as a front squat. Now, you're gonna get the same amount of knee flexion as well too, so your quads are going to get banged right out. Absolutely amazing exercise. So whether you're doing it like this, or taking some straps and wrapping around the bar, highly effective exercise. It just, for me, it's not gonna be a go-to. It's gonna be something I will use for sure once in a while, but it's definitely gonna go up there in option 3. Now, the reason why it's an option 3 again too is not everybody can do front squats, and that's why it's gotta be an option 3. Leg extensions. It doesn't matter how you do leg extensions. It's a highly effective exercise because it's gonna give you the most amount of muscle recruitment and you're just isolating the quads. It's a great movement for the quads. Absolutely amazing movement for the quads. 4 range of motion, you can easily progressive overload it, and you just literally get in, lock yourself in there, keep your chest up, your butt in the back of that bench, and you just flex your knee and then make sure you ride it down to get full range of motion and stretch to the bottom. And that's gonna definitely be a go-to for me. It's gonna be in my programming for sure. Front foot elevated reverse lunge. Sheesh. That exercise, if someone's like, you can only do one movement, one leg exercise, and that's it. What would it be? Only one. Highly effective exercise that you can do, that you get your best bang for your buck all day long. What would it be? I'd be like front foot elevated reverse lunge, 100%, 100%. I get beat up in that way more than I do belt squats. Some of you guys are probably like, why not belt squat? I'm like, because my quads and front foot elevated lunges are thrashed at the end. Why? Because not only are we getting an amazing amount of knee flexion, but we're getting an extended range of motion on the way down. And we're in a great machine to be able to kind of keep us in place. So we're not really worrying about like, yeah, we're stabilizing, but we're not trying to worry about balancing and whatnot. Highly effective exercise, you can progressive overload it. And when it comes to being able to do it fairly simple after you learn to do the exercise with your basic fundamentals for technique, it's an amazing exercise, and that's going to the top. That is a go-to. Sissy squats. I've had problems with sissy squats. I think they're effective, 100%. But you can't progressive overload it because you're just doing them on your own. Now, you're just doing them body weight. Now, it's a good exercise to add in there for sure. I would say like at the end, like a burnout or whatnot. If you're stuck at home and you want to do something that's effective in terms of like just burn your quads right out, it's a good exercise, 100%. Well rounded, full range of motion for sure. You can't progressive overload it. And when it comes to can everybody do it, it's gonna be highly dependent on your range of motion, your knee health, your ankle health. So as much of a good exercise as it is, it's gotta be one of those, is that all you got? Barbell back sumo squats. Are those good for quads? Not necessarily. Why? Because, well, think of it like a sumo deadlift. Sumo deadlifts, again, when it comes to deadlifts itself, you're not getting much knee flexion. You're getting a lot of glute activation, adductor. We're not worried about your back stabilizing, but when it comes to quads themselves, you're not getting as much load on the quads. When I do sumos, I'm not like, oh man, my quads are killing me. It's like, if anything's gonna get gassed out, it'll be my adductors, my glutes, and my back, not my quads. So as good as exercise as it is, it's gonna be definitely down there with the deadlifts. Wall sits. I mean, sounds good. It's good exercise. I mean, you sit in one spot and, you know, just in that flex position, yeah, you're gonna feel your quads. And it's fairly easy to do. You're sitting on a wall and holding yourself up. The only issue is you're not in that stretch position. You're only working one range, and that one range is gonna cause some muscle stimulus for sure. It's gonna cause some hypertrophy, but not as much as you would if you're just doing the entire movement itself. So as effective as it is as getting you a nice burn in your quads, is highly effective to, you know, build your quads? It's not. So it's gonna be one of those like, meh. It's gonna be a meh for sure. Vertical press. Ah, man. Vertical press, vertical press. I used to love this exercise and I still do, but for quads, it's a great exercise for quads. I love it, I love it. It's a good exercise for quads. Not many people have this at their gym. I would say when it comes down to it, it's probably not the best piece of equipment for quads. You're gonna get a lot better stimulus doing leg press. And as much as it is a favorite for me, it is a favorite for me. Trust me, I love vertical press. But when it comes to actually being a very, you know, a very optimal quad exercise, it's not necessarily. It's not, unfortunately. So it's gonna be like, it's gonna definitely be like an option 3 for me. If I go to the gym and they have one of those things and they have nothing else, or like, it's not gonna reach my number 1, my go-to, but if it's there, I'm gonna use it, but it'll be like down there in the options for sure. Pendulum squat. Well, you know what? Pendulum squat has became my absolute favorite leg exercise, a quad exercise for sure. And here's why. And this might help some of you guys out there who have hip issues. When it comes to me and having a partially torn labrum, when I hinge, it sends my hip into just like disarray. It's painful. If I do like goblet squats, You know, regular back squats, front squats, anything squat like that, it hurts. And even belt squat, I have to go only half the range. When I do pendulums, because of the mechanics of the machine, my hips aren't doing much hinging at all. It's an unbelievable machine that I can do, that I can get full range of motion, where I can actually work my glutes and my quads. But since we're talking about quads, you were working quads 100%, full range of motion. Not only you get full range of motion, that this is one of those few exercises that it's the load is as heavy as it is when it starts, when it finishes. When you squat, when you do mostly anything vertical, it gets heavier when you go down, and then it gets substantially lighter as you get up. That's what makes the regular squatting not as good as pendulums. Pendulums stay hard the entire time, plus progressive overload, 100%. And when it comes to being easy to do, I'm telling you right now, having hip issues, boom, that's the machine you get into if you have back problems or hip issues, for sure. So pendulums, obviously they're going to the top. Hack squats. Hack squat machines, unbelievable machines. Especially if you got a good one, if you got a Atlantis hack squat machine or a Cybex or whatever, hack squat machines are amazing. Easily replace anything back squat, anything spine loading. Hack squats are great to do. Yeah, you're loading the spine, but you're in a hack squat. You're in a machine. You have padding, you have a good back place to help with like stabilization. Amazing machine for quads, quad dominant for sure. Full range of motion, progressive overload. Again, you just sit in it, lay in it, make sure that you're active when you're in there, engaging your core, externally rotating at the hips to make sure your knees are over your toes. That's all you gotta do when you're in there. Great machine. That's definitely gonna be a go-to. We have barbell stationary lunges. Just stationary lunge, barbell. Full range of motion, 100%. Quads, activated, for sure. Progressive overload, using the barbell. If we're doing barbell lunges, we can progressive overload because we're gonna be putting that in, I would say, a rack. If you're doing any barbell lunging, it'd have to be in a rack, for sure. But when it comes to progressive overload, is it a movement to do? Yeah, you can definitely progressive overload it, for sure. But do I wanna load my spine doing a stationary lunge? Not necessarily. If I can load it with a dumbbell or kettlebells, I'll do that before I will with a barbell. And if anything, if I'm gonna load my back with a barbell, I'm gonna do it in the Smith machine. It's definitely gonna be one of those like, is that all you got type things, for sure. Just because that, if you don't have the Smith machine, I'm gonna do that, I gotta do that instead. But I'm gonna pick some other movements before actually doing a barbell stationary lunge. All right, we got leg press. Leg press is a great exercise for quads. It's almost like an obvious one. Leg press, for what you don't get from I would say the little bit of the issues you have with a vertical press, leg press is gonna be your go-to. Full range of motion, progressive overload is available, obviously. And then when it comes to it being an easy, safe exercise to do after you just basically learn how to sit into a machine and press away, keep your chest up, your butt in the back of the bench, make sure your butt doesn't come off the bench. Great movement. It's gonna be definite go-to. The regular dumbbell forward lunge and back. Is that a good movement to do? Yes, absolutely fun, absolutely phenomenal exercise. For most people, doing that and coming back, I would rather, if I'm gonna do any kind of like lunge, it's gonna be a couple lunges. Here's my go-to lunge movements. I'm gonna do a front foot elevated for sure. Then I'm gonna do a dumbbell walking lunge. And then if I don't have that, then I'll do like a dumbbell reverse lunge. But then you have like a lunge where I'm just kind of stepping forward and stepping back. It's not my favorite movement to do, but I'm still gonna get a good amount of knee flexion, full range of motion. You can definitely progressive overload it, and it's fairly simple to do, really. But it's definitely gonna be one of those movements where it's gonna be like a, it's gonna be an option 3 type movement. All right, here we go. Sumo squats. It's gonna be definitely a meh. Sumo squats are more glutes and hamstrings, adductors than they are quads. Why? Again, when it comes to your quads really getting good activation, you want the quads to be flexed, meaning you want your knee, when I talk about like quads, when I say knee flexion, that means the knee needs to come completely flexed and then fully extended. When you're doing any kind of deadlift, the deadlift itself, the shin doesn't move, meaning the knees don't really move forward. So you're not gonna get the most out of the exercise. You'd be solely dependent on how deep you can go down, almost like a belt squat, but because of the barbell itself, you're not gonna get deep enough to be able to do that. So when it comes down to it, yeah, that deadlift's gonna be down there with the rest of them in the meh. That's it, guys. If you found that I missed some exercise, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know what you guys think of my list. Are we pretty much the same? Are we a little different? And again, guys, this is my list. Doesn't mean it's the most perfect list. It's just a list that I have from my past education, my coaching, and just experience. But you guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Until next time, guys, you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.